The Chicago White Sox were terrible in 2025, but it wasn't a lost season. Several young players established themselves as major leaguers, setting up an offseason that could make or break the future of the franchise. Will the team fill the gaps of the roster or wait for more prospects to hit the majors? Hello, my name is Avery Taylor, and welcome to Rebuild October. This is a series where we rebuild a new team every day across the month of October. So, whether you're looking for your favorite team or just generally curious about how every team could approach the offseason, this is the series for you. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the White Sox. Looking at the war by position, we can see there are some clear issues in the outfield and at first base. Mine and Sosa will move over to first base full time to allow him to focus on his bat, which showed serious signs of life in 2025. So in this video, we'll have a serious focus on the outfield. Before we can talk about who the White Sox will add, let's go ahead and talk about their impending free agents. The biggest name has to be Luis Robert, who has an impending $20 million club option. Robert is such a polarizing player because we all know the talent. However, the production just hasn't been there for 2 straight years. For this rebuild, they will pick up the option in hopes they find a trade suitor, something we'll circle back to later. The other option the team is faced with is for Martin Perez. The club option does hike his price tag up to $10 million, but I think it's worth it for the Sox to pick up. The rotation is very young, with even more prospects on the way, and they need someone who is stable. It's a bit of a steep price tag, so they could decline the option and then sign him back later, but either way, Perez will be back in 2026. For the unrestricted free agents, the White Sox will see all of them out the door. None of them did enough to warrant another contract and will have to find employment elsewhere. Finding a different home will be Luis Robert Jr., who will be traded to the Phillies in exchange for Justin Crawford and Win-Hyu Pan. Things aren't working out between Robert and the White Sox, and with his increased salary, it's time to move on. For the Phillies, this move is made with the assumption they won't win the World Series. For them, that championship window is closing, with the main core all on the wrong side of 30. And if they fall short, they will need to make an aggressive move. Robert will likely shine in the new environment surrounded by stars. Crawford has mashed across the last 3 seasons as a prospect. His defense gives him a really high floor and should be the center fielder in Chicago for a long time. Hahn is a prospect with much less pedigree, but has a devastating 3 pitch mix that should always find his way to the bullpen in 1 to 2 years. The White Sox have two other top 100 prospects who should hit the majors in 2025. Noah Schultz is the higher rated of the two and should be the quicker one to the majors. The 6'10 left-hander has already hit AAA and could be a strong spring training away from the major leagues. Considering his struggles at AAA, we'll start him there to start the year next year. And then there is Hagen Smith, another southpaw who is vying to crack the major league roster. In Smith's case, it'll probably be towards the second half of the season, but it doesn't make his resume any less impressive. When Smith is in the zone, he's virtually unhittable, but walks have plagued him throughout his minor league career. If he can figure that out, then he'll likely be in the majors quicker than not. An outside shot to crack the roster on the top 100 prospect list is Braden Montgomery. He ascended to Double-A and has been doing reasonably well at that level. He's extremely talented, and if he continues producing, the White Sox could push him aggressively to the majors later on in the season. Outside the top 100, the White Sox have a number of prospects that will make the majors, especially during that second half of the year. Undoubtedly, they will have their impact throughout the year, but the opening day roster, none of them will make it. With the exception of Crawford, we will return the same starting lineup as last season, with Curtis Mead and Corey Lee returning as bench options, leaving two positional players to grab in free agency. Before we can talk about the money that the White Sox will be spending on free agents, let's talk about the money I'll be spending on my wife for Christmas. For every subscriber I gain across the month of October, I'll be adding 50 cents to my wife's Christmas budget. The starting budget is $150, so every subscriber counts. Thank you so much in advance, and let's get back to the video. For free agents, the White Sox will keep it cheap, with their first grab being Lane Thomas. Thomas has been very bad since his move to Cleveland in 2024. However, with the White Sox, he can move back into a more comfortable role. He can platoon with Tauchman and Wright, where he across his career has smashed left-handed pitching. On top of that, the added rest should keep him healthier. A definite low risk, high reward type signing. For the next signing, it will be about filling out that last roster spot, and I really wanted a guy who could play center and shortstop if need be. That player is going to be Jorge Mateo. Mateo was also pretty bad in 2025. However, the value he brings, being able to play solid defense at the up the middle positions, makes him an investment worth taking for this team. For the rotation, they could also use a low risk, high reward type signing, and that's going to come in the form of Zach Eflin, who hasn't been very good in his last season in Baltimore. Eflin is excellent at limiting walks, but the rest of his game has been slipping since 2023 in Tampa. If he can get back to limiting homers and striking guys out, then he can be a piece that the White Sox flip at the deadline. As for the rest of the rotation, it'll remain much of the same. Shane Smith, Davis Martin, and Sean Burke to allow the young starters more time to show off what they have. The same goes for the bullpen, which will return Jordan Leisure, Steven Wilson, Mike Basil, Wikelman Gonzalez, Dan Adavia, Grant Taylor, Brandon Iser, and Frazier Ellard. And that's going to do it for the rebuild. It's important to let this young core grow together in the major leagues. They are headed in the right direction, and with a few high upside signings, this team could make a lot of noise in 2026 that otherwise wasn't expected. Hello, as you can see from my current outfit, you can probably tell what video I'm working on right now, but I want to give you guys an update on how many subscribers we have gained. We started the month at 2,360, and we raised it up to 2,364. Now, that is a 4 subscriber gain, so to many, that's probably not a lot, but that's 4 people that chose to join this community and help out not only me, not only my wife, but just everybody involved. And I just appreciate you guys so much for subscribing. Thank you guys again for checking this video out, staying to the end, and watching every single bit. I hope you guys continue to stick around throughout the series, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful day.